ABC Sport around Australia. Welcome to round 3 of Winfield Cup action. This afternoon, we're in Shark territory, the home of Cronulla. Today's clash sees the Sharks, minor premiers last year, take on the Rabbitohs of South Sydney in a match, David, that many have labelled a battle of the back lines.
Yes, it is going to be a great match-up in the backs, despite the fact that Cronulla have lost 3 of their backline members and South Sydney have lost 1 of theirs. But really, all in all, this match will be won and lost in the forwards. The conditions, as you can see, are very heavy. It's been raining throughout the day here at Cronulla, and really I think we're in for a very tight match. The two teams have both had victories to their credit over Canberra this year in the Winfield Cup. Cronulla first up here at home by 32 points to 14, and then last weekend down in Queanbeyan, South recorded a 17 points to 2 victory. And last year here at the Caltex Field, South Sydney got home with a Phil Blake field goal by 21 points to 20. So Warren Boland, all the 4-10s are there for what should be an extremely close match.
I think you're right, David. In the second round last year, Cronulla won by just 2 points. So a close go is on the cards today. There haven't been a great many changes in the two lineups. For this game, Souths are strengthened. There's Wayne Chisholm back in the pack, and the return from injury of Ian Roberts, and Mario Fenech will be leading by example. So the pack has an uncompromising look about it, particularly with this wet weather we have. Craig Coleman will be in at half-back directing the play. He'll also get into dummy half, and he and Mark Ellison will turn the Sharks around with their judicious kicking. And alongside them, Phil Blake. He's lightning and loves to chip and chase, so again, both players well equipped for the wet weather. On much closer. 2 referees against them. And this week the pack is bolstered. There's the return of David Hatch and also Alan Wilson, who twice won Man of the Match awards before a week out. Gavin Miller should have reacclimatised and be ready to fire after coming back from England, and he'll have a lot of responsibility on his shoulders, particularly with the kicking. But Cronulla also have Paul Bishop, who can kick, Michael Speechley, and of course Alan Wilson. The Sharks have been battered, however, by the loss of Barry Russell and Mark McGaw. That must upset their backline combination, even though they still have Eddinghausen and Docking and can throw the ball around. But when you look at it, the fortunes of injuries do seem to have favoured Souths coming into this match. Cronulla will have discipline. Both teams have plenty of spirit. And Johnny Peart, anything can happen in wet weather.
Sure can, Warren. Wet weather can test any team's discipline. I think most would agree that control of the football and the basic fundamentals of the game go a long way to winning any game. Today we have a strong nor'easter. An effective use of that, with a very good kickers involved in both sides, will surely be a winning ploy.
And the Cronulla team is out on the field for this match, and very muggy conditions and very muddy underfoot. Barry Russell, Mark McGaw and John Davidson drop out of the Cronulla lineup. As you can see, number 20, Paul Bishop on the field. He's playing at halfback instead of the last year's Rothmans medalist, of course, and I'm referring to Barry Russell. The Cronulla lineup, Docking at fullback, Coleman, Eddinghausen, Grant Goodlett, a young man from Dacto in the centres, Watson, Sean Watson on the wings, Speechy at 5'8" and Bishop at half, and the Cronulla forwards, Hatch at lock, Miller and Wilson in the second row, Staines, Guy Picken and Dane Sorensen in the front row, and Alan Fitzgibbon is the coach. And South Sydney make their way onto the field, and there's their little playmaker, Craig Coleman. And what a match he'll be in for this afternoon. Conditions to suit. And there's the back line for South Sydney. Cruikshank at fullback. O'Neill in for Bruce Longbottom, a late change. Maven and Lyons the centres. Harrington on the wing. Blake at 5'8" and Coleman at half. And the forwards for South Sydney. Andrews at lock. Ellison and Chisholm in the second row. Boyle and Roberts are the props. And Fenech, the hooker and captain. And the coach, George Pickens. The Cronulla cheergirls leave the field. Bill Harrigan, the referee this afternoon, he's been in the hot seat all week. And the wet weather football in use here this afternoon and up on a big mound. Alan Wilson will be kicking off. Cronulla defending the northern end. And there's the start of this match at the Caldex Field. South Sydney won the toss and elected to defend the southern end of the ground in the first half as Harrington runs it out. And already you can see as Harrington got up just how heavy and how muddy it is, especially down that southern end. And John Pear down on the sidelines. Johnny, it certainly looks as if it's much heavier down the southern end where the players are at the moment.
Oh, it certainly is. Very chopped up from the earlier grades, David. The track's dead, but now we know why Barry Russell probably withdrew.
Well, Barry Russell spoke to me about half an hour ago and he said that his ankle injury wasn't still 100% and certainly he would have been flirting with danger had he gone out there and played this afternoon. What a heavy tackle there on Coleman. But I don't think they'll lose too much in these conditions, Warren, with Paul Bishop having had an immense amount of experience playing in these conditions in England.
Well, I watched Paul Bishop play the other week in the Panasonic Cup and I thought his kicking game was very good. He was able to pot it in behind the line and fine touch very well. So he will be experienced in these conditions and he shouldn't let them down. But they will miss Barry Russell in attack. There's no doubt about that. Also Mark McGraw, John Davidson. They've got some good replacements, though, in Sean Watson and Bishop. And we'll just see how Grant Goodlett goes.
And Speechley gets it away to Watson. Now Watson's got a big kick, but he's made ground. Now Watson's got support either side, and he's got it away to Hatch, and Hatch has lost the ball. It's gone loose. The scrum will go down as Eddinghausen picked it up, but my word, that won't be a scrum because it's the new rule. That was the last tackle, of course.
Well, South were caught napping that time. They just simply weren't awake. They thought Cronulla would no doubt kick in the wet weather, but Cronulla decided to spin it.
I think it was forced on them spinning it because Speechley was under a lot of pressure from Craig Coleman. And now the penalty goes against Cronulla for being up inside the 5.
This ground does drain very well. There's not much surface water there, and with the wet weather balls, the teams can afford to throw the ball around.
Good win by Cronulla in the under-21s, the President's Cup match by 14 points to 8. And reserve grade, a very close match, but Cronulla won the game with a late converted try about 7 minutes from the end, and both teams had numerous chances to really get those 2 points in reserve grade. An entertaining game that perhaps would have been fair if it had ended in a draw. And Mario Fennick getting up. Was he accusing someone there of gouging?
Well, Fennick was certainly holding his own. He still is.
He pointed a lovely ball away. Here's a chance. Zandrews has picked up on the quarter line. Fennick receiving attention in the back play as it goes to Blake. Blake's little kick. Docking's back there and coming through quickly. Adam O'Neill forces him into the end goal area. Good play, O'Neill. He followed up the good kick from Blake. Docking having no option, and the line dropout will take place, but the touch judge is in. And Gavin Miller's been called out. Now this obviously is the incident involving Mario Fennick.
Well, whether or not Fennick says he was gouged or simply that he got a poke in the eye accidentally remains to be seen. And let's just make sure that it was Miller involved. Here's Fennick taking the ball up. Well, Miller not in. Oh, there he is, just arriving there. And, well, I don't know. There was no obvious poke in the eye. Maybe it happened in the initial impact. It certainly didn't look deliberate.
It certainly didn't look to be any deliberate.
And I don't know that Fennick ever claimed that it was deliberate. He certainly held his eye because he got a poke in it.
Yes. I don't think there was any deliberate ploy there from Miller. South just outside the quarter line. This is Blake. Blake. They fall off tackles off this fellow. They'll certainly pay for it. Blake goes ahead and it's a penalty against Danny Staines.
Well, Staines stands his ground and he believes that Blake moved off the mark into him. Looked to me as if Staines was marking up in the correct position right in front of the man playing the ball.
Yes, could easily have been a penalty the other way, that one.
When you play the ball forward, you can't play it straight into the man in front of you. You can play it to the side, but if he's marking you, well, you've got to, it's got to come clear of the ruck.
Well, let's have a look at this again. Now, there he is playing the ball. Now, where was Staines? I thought he was standing right in front of him in what was a normal position for the marker to stand.
Staines at the very most was just slightly at an angle, but I thought it was fair enough. Staines was dumbfounded that the penalty was given.
There's Alan Fitzgibbon. He wouldn't be overly impressed with that decision going against his side. Mark Ellison, the kicker. 134 points from just 19 games last year. And in fact, went back to South Sydney after having had a stint with Cronulla in 1985, 86 and 1987. He started as the captain of the Cronulla under-23s. And then he was approached by George Biggins to go to Souths. So Ellison to try and put the first points on the board. It's a wobbly old kick, but it's there. And points are at a premium here this afternoon, and South Sydney chalk up the first ones, leading Cronulla 2 points to 0.
Well said, David. Points are at a premium. Those 2-pointers might well be the difference by the end of the day. We can't expect the play to be free-flowing, a lot of tries to be scored, even though, as I said, with these wet weather balls, it's not quite like the old days where you really just gave it to the forwards and took it up the middle.
In the last 10 years, Cronulla have won 8 times, Souths have won 9, and 3 have been drawn. Quite remarkably last year. Phil Blake kicked the field goal, although it did make the margin 7 points at the time in the first game down here, but it finished up 21-20, a game that Cronulla let slip away. And of course, it was well documented, the second game, a Friday night game at the Sydney Football Stadium, when Sean Watson kicked a goal virtually after the bell to give Cronulla a 2-point victory. Otherwise, that game could have finished in a draw. So there's never been much between these two sides over the last 10 years. South Sydney's kick looks to be good. Docking in the end, deciding that it's better to let it go across the touchline and get the feed into the scrum.
We've already seen 2 very useful kicks from Mark Ellison. Just picking out the distance, looking for touch that time. Not going too far, just making it difficult for Docking.
Bishop, Speechley, Coleman in off the wing. Good tackle from Blake. Also over the top, Andrews. Crowd cheer seeking the penalty there. Obviously a pro-Cronulla side on the far side of the field. Young Grant Goodluck gets his first touch of the football. And 19 is actually brought up from one of his former clubs, Dapto. Here's Wilson. He missed the game against Canterbury on Monday. But it had great games in the previous 2 matches, in the Panasonic Cup game against East, and of course in the game opening match of the year here against Canberra. Cronulla on the last tackle. Sean Watson, he has a mighty boot on him, and that's a big kick. Look at that. That's a great kick from Watson. And Cruikshank collides with the goal post, or as he tried to take that. That was a bit lucky for him.
You can see that Cronulla have the wind behind them, and that was a mighty boot. Very awkward as it came down near the post. Watson right underneath it. And here's the incident right alongside the post. Very difficult for the fullback, Cruikshank.
He almost knocked that on too. He was only lucky that the ball went the other way. Could have easily been a knock on.
Very difficult to keep your eye on the ball when you know that you're about to run into a goalpost.
Come on, Mark Ellison, the kick up over the halfway. Watson's there. Wisely watches it all the way into his hands. O'Neill's there. He's away from O'Neill. He's almost away from the next tackler, but can't do so. That's David Boyle. Cronulla through Staines. Good tackle. Chisholm underneath and over the top. Fennick. Penalty against Souths. Hatch thought about the quick tap. And then I think he thinks, well, you have to score, otherwise he'll give Sean Watson a shot at goal, or is he giving Wilson a shot?
We can see referee Harrigan had Ian Roberts standing a metre in front of him, right in front of him. No doubt the penalty was justified.
There's Georgie Biggins in the crowd with the walkie-talkie, resplendent in his black and white stripes.
When the referee gets back and marks that 5 metres, which is often more like 10 metres, at least the players in the defensive line have no excuse. All they have to do is look to their right or left. Wherever the referee is, that's the mark to be back. And Ian Roberts wasn't.
In 1989, so far Cronulla have scored 34 points, as against South 17. And Cronulla have had 5 different try scorers, as against South's as 1. Graham Lyons, of course, scored 3. In fact, it was a great day for the Lyons family last week. Cliff Lyons scored 3 for Manly. Cousin Graham scored 3 for South Sydney. So Alan Wilson to try and level up the scores here at the Caldex field. There's his kick. It looks straight off the boot. It looks pretty good. It's there. What a good kick. He would have kicked it from halfway. That was a mighty kick from Wilson. And Cronulla and Souths are level at 2 apiece.
Plenty of power in the kick. The kickers often say that the wet weather ball is a little bit harder to get the distance with, and it does bounce awkwardly as well, but no doubt Wilson hit it right off the point that time, and with the wind behind him, plenty of distance and direction.
10 minutes gone in the match, and it's 2-2. Referee calls timeout. Ellison restarts play. That's holding up in the breeze. Coleman, eyes on it, offloads the pass. This is Pickin to play it. Hatch's on his own. Good run from Hatch. Paul Roberts affecting the tackle. Ian Roberts, I should say.
Good run by Staines, hitting the advantage line.
Here's Miller. Out it comes. That's Bishop. He did well to hold on to that. Speaks to your dummy half. Sorensen. Last tackle against Cronulla. Bishop's on the short side. Well, they almost mucked that up. It went to Miller in the end. Miller's kick. Trapped by O'Neill, soccer style. He did well there, Adam O'Neill.
Very smart football to just let it die on his leg and then pick it up cleanly.
In soccer, they call it trapping. And good luck with the Socceroos. Some of them might be watching this on some of those satellites that are over there in New Zealand. Let's hope they can perform brilliantly tomorrow against New Zealand. Coleman, the kick. Here's Docking. Back on the quarter line. He's got Watson in support. Doesn't need him. Good run from Docking. Decided this year to dispense with the headgear. Sorensen, penalty against Souths. Incorrect marking.
Well, the referee said that Ian Roberts was all over the top of the man trying to play the ball, and he was. He didn't move back and give him that space.
Ian Roberts is another man who'd be pretty used to these conditions, having had a couple of stints with Wigan.
Souths are making it difficult for themselves to get out of their own territory, giving away these penalties.
2-2 the penalties. John Peard, any sort of trend you can see in the game yet?
Souths are using their bigger backs, Maven and Harrington, one pass off the ruck or running from dummy half. So obviously they're going to come into their own later. They're taking a bit of pressure off the forwards.
So Cronulla just 30 metres away from that South Sydney line. Bishop, away it comes to Miller. Now this is Hatch. Sorensen. Pickin was one way. See, they've got a bit mucked up there. Speechley. Out it comes. Now this is Eddinghausen. Eddinghausen beautifully chopped down. That was a lovely tackle. Graham Lyons. Last tackle. Speechley got his kick in. I don't know how he's hit, but he did it. Oh, it's almost hit the upright again. Poor old David Cruikshank. And I'll tell you what, they got a chance there, South Harrington, but just as well, it was well read there by Miller and Hatch. They realised that there was a bit of a problem out wide.
Cruikshank at fullback is going to have to commit himself to these high balls. Even if the posts are there, you've got to take those on the full. You can't allow them to bounce around.
Gee, you've got to feel sorry for him, though, Warren.
They're awkward, but you just simply have to go for that ball. That time he did let that bounce. It came down in front of the posts.
Roberts got that pass away. This is Chisholm. Chisholm. Good run from Chisholm. Wayne Chisholm, 12 metres his own side of halfway.
Getting back to those kicks, Speechley is picking out those posts beautifully.
That long ball comes away to O'Neill, brilliantly picked up on the half volley, over the halfway. He's got the pass away, but Lyons can't scoop it up. But that was good football from South Sydney. What a lovely pickup from Adam O'Neill. And this is the pass that he almost got away to Lyons to put him in the clear.
O'Neill just found himself in an awkward position as he tried to twist around and get the pass back. And in the end, left it just that moment too late. And also, Eddinghausen was in between, making it more difficult.
Reminded me a lot of his dad in the covers, that pickup. Beautiful bit of work from Mark O'Neill. He is here today, Adam O'Neill. All the O'Neill family here this afternoon, along with son-in-law Les Davidson, who's still overcoming the knee injury. Alan Wilson running the ball up. And now South with a chance, but the referee's going to put a scrum down.
Tiny double knock on. by David Boyle after it bounced off Miller's chest. Wilson coming across the ruck to the blind side, tries to pick up a runner inside, but the pass a little too high and bouncing right off Miller's chest. But then David Boyle just a tiny knock on.
30 metres out from the South Sydney, from the Cronulla line. So Souths have got a good chance to go right on the attack here. Scrum's going Cronulla's way 2-1 now with that win to South Sydney. This is Maven, as John pointed out, coming in close, taking a bit of pressure off the forwards. This is Roberts. Roberts spins, he's got the pass away. Lions just outside the quarter line. Blake. Coleman puts the kick in. O'Neill coming through quickly. Docking just gets there first. Dives on that loose ball just outside his goal line.
That's twice we've seen Jonathan Docking in beautiful positional play, diving across onto the loose ball. He had to get there first because O'Neill, for the second time, was flying through. But look at Docking, wrapped right around the ball, covering it up.
Good football from O'Neill too, making sure that the kick was worth it. Sorensen runs it up. Blindside Miller. Eddinghausen. Last tackle against Cronulla's been a good defensive effort. They've kept them in check to just 18 metres at the moment. Watson, now again he's giving that ball a mighty whack up over the halfway line, down towards the quarter line. Harrington's there and so too is Cruikshank, and Goodlett's there, and he's tackled effectively alongside there with Speechley. Maven. See, not too many times you get away from a Staines tackle, but he got away from it then. Rain starting to fall again here. 2-2 to score. Roberts. Ian Roberts just inside South Sydney's territory. Fennick.
There's some good football from both sets of forwards here. Not many loose passes. They're making ground. They're trying to spin in the tackles, get away, safe passes.
And there's Blake trying that little chip and chase. That was well fallen on the end by David Hatch, playing back there in a sweeping role.
There's Phil Blake. He just loves to put that ball in only 10 metres or so and use his speed to get to it first.
Wilson, good run, up to the halfway line. Dogging blindside, he finds Miller. Miller, a couple of metres in from this western touchline. Coleman, Sorensen. Sorensen just goes straight down the centre of the ruck. Coleman again, the dummy half. Good pass away to Pickin. Last tackle against Cronulla. Bishop one off the ruck. Right behind the ruck is Miller. There's Bishop. Bishop puts the little kick in. Now Hatch coming through quickly. Hatch has read it pretty well, but Lyons just gets back there first to dive on the loose ball, and he's lost it. 6 to go. Cronulla right on the attack here. Quickly the ball's moved away to Docking. Penalty against South Sydney, right in front of the sticks. Back 5, referee Harrigan says.
Well, South knew they were in trouble and decided to take the odds to it, to move up and make the tackle, even if he wasn't back 5. And Cronulla right on the attack, but it was probably unnecessary because Docking had found himself without the one man he needed outside to link up to his outside backs, and it had to have been forced to go himself. Here's the previous tackle, and you can see all the South Sydney forwards well up inside the 5. They were barely back 2 metres, and Mario Fennick moving in to make the tackle with Ellison.
Ellison was in an offside position at the time the ball was played. Alan Wilson, 166 points last year for Cronulla, the leading point scorer for the Cronulla Sharks. What a great player he's turned out to be, this young man. Mr. Versatility Plus. Mark McGaw, at least he's got a smile on his face.
Suffering from a shoulder problem.
So Wilson from almost right in front. There's the kick, and he's missed it. He's missed it. Put it away on the outside of the upright. Play to restart from the centre of the quarter line. So wouldn't you believe that? He kicks the hard one and misses the easy one.
Well, we said earlier that all the 2-pointers are going to be valuable. It may well count by the 80th minute.
Look at the way that ball held up in the breeze. Goodlett takes it back for the Sharks.
Cronulla found themselves in a position to at least attempt that goal after that little chip kick through, which David Hatch followed through, and that's the way to break the line. a kicking game.
And it was set up that way too, as here's Hatch, away it comes to Bishop, on it goes to Speechley, quickly out it goes to Eddinghausen up to the quarter line, brilliant run from Eddinghausen, and he's in the touch in the end. That was a lovely tackle from Coleman. But Eddinghausen, look at the speed of the man, even in these conditions.
Well, notice here Eddinghausen, as they move the ball wide, but Eddinghausen gets outside his opposite number, Lyons. There was plenty of room once he put on the pace out there. Lyons couldn't simply catch up. But in the end, Eddinghausen knows that he made the mistake early in the tackle count to go over the touchline here, and when he stood up, he shook his fist.
The rain starts to come down again as Coleman feeds the scrum back at his own quarter line. A win against the head. What good work from Pick, and he's not a regular hooker. Quickly it comes away to Eddinghausen again, and he floats it over the top, and it's almost intercepted by Harrington. But the scrum will go down for the knock-on.
It was try time if Harrington didn't get his fingers to that ball. Good work by Cronulla to move the ball wide, having won the scrum against the feed, so the defence wasn't set. Eddinghausen decides to go over the top looking for Coleman, and Harrington just stretched down the intercept.
This has come out Cronulla's way. Speechley, oh, we almost got him behind Blake there. Blake read that well at the last moment. Here's Miller on the quarter line. Coleman's been in a dummy half a lot. Here's Speechley, the dummy half. Staines. It was Michael Porter's the regular dummy half with Cronulla, and he may come on later in the game. Wilson. He's a fresh reserve this afternoon, Michael Porter. Watson. He's only about 11 metres away. Last tackle. Now which way the kick going to go here? Wilson's the dummy half. He'll kick. Wilson's kick straight across the ground. It's been knocked on by Eddinghausen. Souths have come up in possession, and the referee's going to put a scrum down for a knock on both ways.
Eddinghausen didn't quite get down to that ball, but that could have been very dangerous. The kick right across the front, anything can happen, and Eddinghausen just knocked it on. It was a little low for him.
Penalty against Cronulla. Moving the scrum off the mark's the only thing I can interpret that as being. Harrigan talking to David Hatch, the captain of Cronulla.
Cronulla, I should say Souths, need this penalty to relieve the pressure. Cronulla have been mounting sustained attack in the last couple of minutes.
So the penalties 3 apiece, the scores 2-all. And John Peard, often that's the way these games are won. It's field position that normally determines the outcome of these type of games.
Yeah, certainly. Well, it was a strange decision by South to... here's Blake now.
Here's Phil Blake up over the halfway line. He's got Docking coming up. Docking's coming at Blake. Blake offloads to O'Neill, and O'Neill's beautifully tackled. Seen Watson right down on the quarter line. He didn't play that properly, but he was manhandled as he tried to get up and play it. Penalty goes to Souths. Sorry, John.
I'm just saying it was a strange decision by South to run into the wind, but if they can go in at half-time reasonably close in the scoreline, or even in front, they'll accept that their plan is on target.
And as you can see, Watson giving the penalty away, but South declining the shot at goal, trying to put the 4-pointer on the board.
May have thought it was difficult to go into the wind too for the kick.
Adam O'Neill might have been limping a fraction too after that great run and great tackle from Sean Watson. So here's South Sydney right on the attack, just 11 metres out. Coleman's a dummy half. Coleman on his own. Well read though by Picken, who wraps him up ball and all. South Sydney down in that attacking area. Blake, he gets the pass away. This is Chisholm. Chisholm's only about 8 metres out from that Cronulla line. Coleman takes the odds to the line side. The ball comes away into the in-goal area after it was kicked by Ellison, and Docking runs it out well.
That's 3 out of 3 to Jonathan Docking. Superb positional play and a calm, cool head. And nothing wrong with the kick from Ellison. Perfect distance, lobbing into the in-goal area. But look at Docking. He steadies, took the ball, and then immediately on the attack.
Cronulla on their own quarter line. Back it comes to Miller. On it goes to Sorensen. Well, they went to 3 different forwards and none of them were going forward there. But it had been a speedy back. They might have been able to make something out of that. Here's Picken. Had a mighty game against Canberra 2 weeks ago. Last tackle against Cronulla. Staines is the dummy half. Now Watson didn't get a good pass, but he's got plenty of time to manipulate some room to get... Look at this towering kick. It's a beaut kick from Watson. 10 metres out from his own line. Cruikshank bringing the ball back.
Cronulla are losing nothing in terms of the kicking game by the loss of John Davidson with a rib cartilage injury, because Sean Watson is picking up 70-odd metres with some of these kicks with the breeze.
And here's Maven, and good tackle. He was almost through that. Sorensen round his bootlaces. Souths through Roberts. The pass comes away to Fennick. Now here's Lyons. In fact, it's Cruikshank. Ellison under a bit of pressure. That's come up the side of his boot and really hanging up in the breeze. And Bishop gets it, and he's really hit the deck there very heavily from Maven. Wilson receiving some attention.
Some strong hits going in the defensive area. Leading the tackle count for South, Ian Roberts, David Boyle, Wayne Chisholm. And for Cronulla, it's Danny Staines, Guy Picken and Dane Sorensen hitting hard.
Well, the front row there doing a lot of the work. Just inside South's territory. Here's Staines.
Ooh, look at the shoulder there from Roberts, driving in, hitting him right in the chest.
This is Miller. Away it comes to Wilson. Wilson, don't forget, has just got up after being down injured. The referee said it's a handover as he tried to put that kick in.
Wilson shouldn't have kicked that time. Maybe he did take a knock because he had two men unmarked in support alongside him.
South just inside their own half. It's 2-2 here with about 14 minutes remaining in the first half. Roberts stands and gets the pass away, but it's been intercepted. David Hatch somehow got that before Wayne Chisholm had a chance to get it out of the air. Now here's Staines. And why would he have thrown the pass if he thought that... Well, might have been a mistake there from Roberts. Let's see whether they have to pay for it. Well, here's the pass. Roberts standing there, throws the pass. And somehow David Hatch managed to get it. There it is. Thank you. Cronulla. About 40 metres out from that South line. Picken. Last tackle against Cronulla. Speechley and Miller are one side, and Bishop decides to go to the blind side. Oh, O'Neill almost lost it over the touchline.
Well, the easy way out would have been to let it go over the touchline and not take a chance, but O'Neill comes out a hero.
And he committed himself. Boyle. Haven't seen much of David Boyle on attack, but gee, he's got through a power of work and defence. Fennick. This ball missed a lot of last year after that terrible car accident. There's Ellison now hoists it back over the halfway. It really does hang up in the breeze when South Sydney kicks. Good look.
In fact, Ellison is doing reasonably well to get the distance he is out of this wind.
Dogging, hands and knees. South player injured in the back play. Looks like Chisholm from here. There's Wilson back onto the halfway line. Wayne Chisholm it is who's down injured. And here's how Wayne Chisholm was injured, and as you can see, is his own player.
Steve Maven coming over the top.
Completely accidental, but that's how easily someone can get injured, of course. Souths through Blake. Cruikshank was there on the outside, but he just couldn't get the pass away, Phil Blake. Roberts. 10 metres inside Cronulla's half. 11 minutes to go in the first half. Lyons is in a dummy half. Lyons on his own.
Notice Craig Coleman going into dummy half and Mario Fennick doing a lot of the running.
Fennick. This is Boyle. 30 metres out from Cronulla's line. Andrews goes from dummy half. Last tackle against South Sydney. Coleman's, well, he was there. Now Fennick goes on his own. Fennick looking for someone to pass to. He's knocked it on. So the scrum will go down. In fact, it should be a handover. And it is.
Well, that time Fennick thought that the defence would move straight to Coleman, and he took off, got halfway through, but then just making a mistake with the pass. But it was the last tackle. He had to try something. In fact, it was Hatch knocking the ball out of his hands.
Yes, which meant that he could easily have given 6 to go there, referee Harrigan.
True.
Picken brings the ball back. And Souths have made too many errors.
Mostly missed tackles.
And here's Eddinghausen in a bit of space. Eddinghausen puts a kick in. The ball's going to stay just in the field of play, or will it? Cruikshank's back there. Coming through quickly is Coleman. Coleman can't put Cruikshank down. Eddinghausen holds him up, and with the help of Docking, Play has to restart with a line dropout.
Beautiful piece of football. Beautiful football from Eddinghausen on the fly to put his kick to the foot to the boot and foot to the ball, I should say, and to judge the distance. It's very difficult to not kick that either too short or too long. But he picked it beautifully, and then the defence driving into pin Cruikshank down in the in goal.
And that is the sort of play that wins games in wet weather. We saw Canterbury outstanding last Monday in the wet weather. Here's Staines bringing it back.
Staines is having a great game.
Now here's a chance for Cronulla. They're only 10 metres out, and Speechley almost gets through. He's only a couple of metres away. Plays the ball, Sorensen. It goes to Hatch, and Hatch is held up. He's only a couple of metres out. Bishop's the dummy half. Away it comes to Miller. Miller pirouettes. Miller does another pirouette. It goes to Staines. Away it goes to Docking. Docking, can he get the ball down? Yes, try! They have to wait for the referee. Gee, I thought he got it down. Well. Penalty goes to Cronulla anyway.
Not allowing him to play the ball correctly. Standing all over the top of him. Let's watch Docking here. Did he get the ball down at the first attempt? So close. The hand might have been just under it. Was that ball touching a white line? It looks like it was, and it would have been a fair try.
Well, for mine, it was a fair try. From the time it took Bill Harrigan to get from one side to the other was the time it took them to slide Docking back just far enough to make sure that by the time Bill Harrigan got round there that he had to rule no try. But had Bill Harrigan been on the other side of it, to my mind, he could have awarded a try to Jonathan Docking there.
Let's watch Jonathan Docking here. So close. The ball has not touched the line as yet. Notice there is a South Sydney arm underneath it, but it looks as if the ball has touched the white line there. And wait for Bill Harrigan to arrive. As far as I can see, the ball is on the line. Oh, there it is. Well, Harrigan appeared to have the vision to have ruled that a try, I thought.
Well, it looked a try from there, but don't forget the initial impact of when the ball may have been on the line there. Bill Harrigan was the other side of the ruck, and you can't blame him because he can't be everywhere. By the time he got round to have a clear look at where it was, Docking had been moved just a fraction.
And no matter what our cameras show, Bill Harrigan was far closer than any of us.
That's right. And there was always the chance that Fenwick's arm might have been underneath him. Wilson to try and put the Sharks in front, and he's put it out to the left again. It's taken in the in goal by O'Neill. Can he get it back into the field? The place. Oh! He's made a dreadful mistake. And Cronulla has scored. Andrew Eddinghausen has scored an amazing try, or is it? No, it's Goodluck. It's Grant Goodluck playing his first ever game for Cronulla Sutherland. Has scored an incredible try, and maybe justice has prevailed. The Sharks lead 6-2. Let's have a look at this again.
Well, Wilson misses the attempt at goal, but look at Adam O'Neill here. With the ball in his hands, plenty of water splashing up, but the ball's dry. He tried to get a horror pass away. You'd think it was an April Fool's joke. Honestly, Adam, you should never, ever have thought about it.
Well, here it is again. You'll see O'Neill. He's caught with the ball in the in-goal area. It's Eddinghausen who affects the tackle. And here's the young Dapto boy, 19 years of age, his first-grade debut, and he scores a try. Jonathan Docking coming back. We thought he'd scored only a couple of minutes earlier, and there's Goodluck, his first try in his first-grade debut with the Cronulla Sharks.
Really, it's absolutely dumbfounding to think that Adam O'Neill would attempt to throw that pass. In hindsight, he could have let the ball go over the dead ball line, and they would have at least had a drop out from the 22. It would have been pretty easy, but he was always going to be in trouble once he caught the ball.
So Wilson to try and convert the try, and that's another bad kick from Alan Wilson. He struck the first kick this afternoon beautifully. Hasn't really struck them as well since. And Cronulla are leading South Sydney. 6 minutes to go in the first half by 6 points to 2. You've got to feel sorry for Adam O'Neill, but perhaps he should have let the ball go originally.
But once you get into this position, that pass is just absolutely ridiculous. No excuse.
Yes, Paul Roberts, number 40, is preparing to take the field for Adam O'Neill.
And that really must shatter South somewhat. You could see the players, as it happened, putting their hands on their heads. They couldn't believe it after battling it out so much through this first half. The scores were close. They just managed to survive a Cronulla raid, and then all of a sudden the softest of tries conceded.
But as we said, we'll never blame Bill Harrigan for it, because he had no way, and as you said, he was a lot closer to it. From that one camera angle we had, Docking appeared to have scored a try only a few moments earlier, so as we said, maybe it was justice after all, but Adam O'Neill must hate playing Cronulla. Cronulla with the ball, midway, half and quarter line. And they've touched in flight, so everyone's onside. Adam O'Neill brings it back. So Blake to get up and play it just inside South Sydney's territory. And here's O'Neill trying to redeem himself perhaps and scoring a try before the break. Oh, what a clash that was between Staines and Fennick. Fennick quickly to his feet, but now takes a big gasp of air. Andrews is taken. Have a look at these two big men hit. As there they come back. Whoa. Not the most comfortable place to be. Blake's kick, touched by Docking. Docking gets back 10 metres out from his own line. Maven's up there. And he can't get away. Yes, he can. Oh, what a lovely pirouette. Put him in the Bolshoi ballet. What a lovely pirouette that was.
George Piggins down on the sideline now.
Bishop. Cronulla leading by 6 points to 2. Little knock on in there. Well, Paul Roberts is still down there. He's now on the field, and it's Adam O'Neill, as John said, who's leaving the field. In fact, he's going to go off the far side.
Well, I can't agree with George Piggins' decision there. Surely the only reason O'Neill has been taken to the sideline is because of that mistake. And I mean, OK, he made the mistake, but he more than anybody knows that he made it, and he wants the opportunity to make up for it. That's, I really think that's poor coaching by George Piggins, if the only reason he's taken O'Neill off is that mistake.
Here's Fennick taking the ball ahead now for Souths. Desperate to get level before the break. Only 20 metres out from Cronulla's line. Coleman offloads it. Here's Blake. Blake puts the kick in. Now this is where O'Neill was very good at applying pressure early on. But back there Watson finds it quite comfortable. The fall on the ball.
Well, not very comfortable.
Yeah.
He's copped a very solid tackle as he went back after this kick from Blake. Plenty of chases coming through on Watson. And let's see now whether Maven comes in illegally. Well, I'd say that's illegal. I think that'd be almost worth being sent off for. Certainly caution. Obviously the referee or the touch judge didn't see it, but that was a very strong illegal forearm to the head.
Well, why didn't the touch judge see it? It happened right in front of him.
Well, the referee would think would have been looking there as well.
If the touch judge didn't see it, there was something wrong. Here comes Chisholm, bringing it back for South Sydney, just outside the quarter line. Here comes Boyle on the quarter line. Fennick. Back Boyle to Coleman. Oh, almost intercepted by Hatch. We'll have to start calling him the intercept merchant if he keeps going for him, David Hatch. He got one early in the game. And Coleman, here you'll see, look, almost got it away to Blake. And Hatch almost takes the intercept.
Adam O'Neill making his way baning into the pavilion now, and the Cronulla crowd giving him warm applause because they know how wretched he feels. He's had to walk all the way from the far side of the field round the back. It's taken him this long to get here. He's copped a bit of abuse behind the behind the post from some of the crowd, it appeared.
Now here's Paul Roberts. Roberts the replacement on, chopped down beautifully by the lawnmower, Speechley. Only 10 metres out. Harrington on his own. Harrington offloads, it goes to Coleman. Back the blind side, here's Roberts again. And Roberts can't get his pass away to an unmarked Cruikshank. Fourth tackle against South Sydney, right on half-time. Ellison, here it comes away. And Ian Roberts, is it? No, it's Chisholm. Wayne Chisholm scored. It's 6-all.
Tremendous driving run from Wayne Chisholm there. He came straight and hard and on the angle. The defence was already just weakened a little bit, but he came at the angle, caught them on the wrong foot and burrowed his way through. Just determined running and picking the right spot. He knew where the weakness was. The defence is moving across field. He comes back the other way, and it was as easy as that in the end.
So Wayne Chisholm scores the try to level it up. His first of the season. Started with Manly back in 1984. and came to Souths in 1985 and he was coached by Ron Willey. Cronulla would be pretty devastated by that. Seemingly set to go in at half-time, leading by 6 points to 2. And with less than 60 seconds to go before the break, Chisholm scores the try. And now Ellison, who was very much involved in that little passage of play, has the chance to put the Rabbitohs in front at half-time. Ellison moves in and just misses it on the outside. And there's the whistle going for half-time. Mark Ellison, he's pretty disappointed about missing that. So as they go in at the break, as Ian Roberts leaves the field, a very even contest all over the park. It's been nothing between them. As Phil Blake comes off, it's Cronulla Sutherland 6, South Sydney 6. Yes, and a very special welcome and hello to everyone throughout Western Australia. And, of course, isn't the game booming over there in Perth? And wasn't that a great crowd when Parramatta played Balmain there recently? Dave Brown's not the only international involved in the game in Western Australia, of course. Ted Goodwin made the trek over there this year. Well, what an eventful week it's been in rugby league. And with his regular look at the game, here's Warren Boland.
Well, David, this week's headlines, which screamed eye gouging, have hacked away at the league's multi-million-dollar campaign of image building. Tina Turner's been telling us what you get is what you see. Well, some players aren't going to be getting very much if gouging continues. It's been a very busy week for the judiciary. In a spiteful match between Newcastle and Balmain, the Knights' Peter Johnson was sent off on a charge of gouging Michael Pobji. The judiciary dismissed the charge because there was conflicting and inconclusive evidence. Referee Bill Harrigan said Johnson's fist was closed like a claw across Pobji's eyes and nose, but Harrigan admitted he didn't actually see a finger in Pobji's eye.
I thought it was a very enthusiastic sort of a game.
After the match, Balmain halfback Gary Freeman was cited following an on-the-field complaint that Mark Sargent had been gouged. Freeman said he was attempting to reach for the ball when his arm was deflected, and he had no recollection of touching Sargent's face. The judiciary believed opposing evidence, including the opinion of the Newcastle club doctor, that the vertical laceration could only have been caused by pressure from more than one finger onto and across the eye.
The main reason we're here tonight is as a result of the injuries that happened to me. That's why we're here tonight. It was no different to any other match, in my opinion, other than that.
Freeman was suspended for 12 matches.
Must be pretty shattered.
Yep.
The photos and circumstances leave no doubt that a finger was in Sargent's eye. The only question is whether Freeman's action was deliberate or accidental. In my experience, it's unusual for a player to jump in the air to gouge someone. That's done on the ground under a tackle. But it's equally unusual for a player's eyeball to be lacerated accidentally. Gouging is a vicious, cowardly act to be totally despised. Of course, it's been going on for years. We've already seen some players have their sight damaged by so-called sportsmen. They're just callous beings who'll do anything to get on top of an opponent. We've had suspensions of 15 months, 20 matches handed out, and still gouging goes on. Maybe it's time the judiciary handed out 3 or 4 years sentences before someone is blinded. Even more powerful than the judiciary, the coaches should warn any culprits they'll be kicked right out of the club, out of the team, if they continue it. And lastly, referees shouldn't tolerate a hand going anywhere near a player's face on the field. The judiciary also received a royal visit. A charge against Brisbane's Wally Lewis of using a forearm to the neck of Manly's Glenn Ryan was dismissed as being accidental.
I took into the hearing a whole load of footage, previous video clips of the way I use a pen, where I get my arm up and go over the top of a bloke's shoulder, which makes contact with the chest or shoulder, and that was, I think, one of the most important things in the hearing. for a while I was sort of wondering what was going on. I looked down and Glenn was laying on the ground, and I walked over and he just pointed off, and there was a bit of a feeling that I was just stunned by the decision. I just turned around and walked off.
Down to 12 men for most of the game, the Broncos were courageous in overcoming Manly. Manly's best, Paul Vaughton, praised Gene Miles. He said Miles should be in the second row for Australia. With several stars not fully fit, the Manly backline didn't function, and they relied on 3 soft tries by Cliff Lyons to stay in the match. The Canterbury backs and forwards enjoyed the slush against Cronulla. Referee Chris Ward ruled Jonathan Docking didn't ground the ball before debutant Jamie Corcoran touched down for the Bulldogs. Paul Dunn led the way in the 22-2 win. And so the Premiers have made a solid start to this season. And if we look at the competition table, 5 teams unbeaten on top, and down the bottom, among others struggling without a point, Manly, Canberra and Norths. Well, it's certainly been a turbulent week. There was also courage shown by Balmain prop Steve Edmed, who played for 30 minutes with a broken jaw. But on a brighter note, we'll all remember that sickening moment last week when Tony Casado was knocked unconscious in the Parramatta West match. Well, Tony's recovered, he didn't suffer any serious injury, and Cameron Blair taught us all a lesson in quick thinking, first aid and sportsmanship. And David, that was great to see.
Yeah, sure was, Warren, and it was great news to hear that Tony Casado was, well, he pulled up very well on Sunday and Monday. Well, much has been written and said about the big, powerful men of rugby league, and, well, the little men often is not as much written about, but so often they play an important role, and often it's their performance that works out how a game will finish up. Players like Alan Langer, Steve Morris, Michael Neal and Ivan Henjak invariably hold the key to a game. And another such player who readily comes to mind is last year's Rothmans medalist, Barry Russell.
Certainly an important part of the game these days to be strong, be able to handle yourself. You've got to be able to take the knocks, you know, and being small and that, even though I try and keep away from as many as I can, you know, and the ones you do get, you try and bounce off, but if you're a bit solid and strong up top, it certainly does help.
How do you try and combine the two? Because one of Barry Russell's greatest features is his speed. Now, I was always told that if you did too much weight training, you lost your speed. How do you combine the two?
Well, that's an old fallacy, you know. Weight training is important in speed training these days, and a lot of the guys would be doing a lot of weight training, incorporating their speed training.
I remember one memorable day here against Brisbane. I think every Cronulla player and fan would remember that day when you led, I think, 18-0 at half-time. What were your memories of that game?
Yeah, well, certainly, that was the first time we played Brisbane, and the papers are writing it up pretty big during the week and that, and they had a lot of big names, and really we just wanted to come into the game with a low profile and stick to our game plan and come out winners, which we did and did well. It was great.
Were there any times over, say, the last 6 years here at Cronulla that you had any self-doubts, that you thought about perhaps giving it away?
Yeah, well, I suppose every player sort of goes through some, a stage where they thought that, is it all worth it? But there's something inside that I suppose just keeps drawing you to this game, and fortunately I never did. I just kept hanging in there and ended up getting a chance and making the most of it. The main thing was to play good in reserve grade and just make them picky in first grade. If you play well enough, it doesn't matter how well they're going, they're going to have to find a spot for you in there. So that's what my philosophy was. Just play the best you can in reserves and they'll have to pick you.
Pinnacle of the year was getting the Rothmans medal. I mean, what sort of buzz did that give you?
Oh, certainly, that was just, you can't explain it, it was just something that, you just don't expect. You know, probably like somebody getting a phone call saying they won $1 million lottery, you know. It's just, I couldn't believe it.
I got my invitation and I still, you know, I'm that naive, I didn't even think I'd polled, you know, like I was just going along to make the numbers up, you know. And I'm here, you know, I've got it.
I read a story once where you like ice creams, and that was the reason why you trained hard. Is that true?
Yeah, well, I've been known to have a couple of bowls of ice cream. I reckon it gives me heaps of energy, you know. It works, I suppose.
And what other foods do you get into? I mean, you like the rest of the footballers, the big pasta eater?
Oh, yeah, I love the pasta, but I love sweets, you know. I like my sweets more than anything. My apple pie and ice cream, and more ice cream, lollies and all that sort of thing.
How much more weight training do you need now, then, to get it all off?
No, it burns off pretty quick, I tell you. It doesn't stay on for long. Certainly, Premiership's never been won out here before, and it'd be great for the district, but I think I've put a lot of hope in short people's people that are short in football in this side, because they think that short people can make it, I suppose. There's definitely big men, there's little men, and there's speed, there's toughness, there's everything, you know. It's what you get is what you see.
It's time.
And so, play getting ready now for the second half. And there's Mark Ellison lining the ball up for the restart. So there's the restart. And here's Jonathan Doggy, who featured fairly prominently in that little segment there on little Barry Russell. Not playing today.
It looks as if Cronulla are in fresh jerseys, but South's still going around in the same ones as the first half, and it does make a difference. You feel a little bit lighter and fresher to start the second half. Both teams, I thought, played the right kind of tactics in the first half, but in the second stanza, South's had the wind behind them, and they should make the fullest use of it with the kicking game.
And this will be the last tackle coming up against Cronulla here. So we might just see what their tactics are going to be. Will they keep it low, or will they continue with Watson kicking it high? And there's the first kick of the second half from Bishop. Well angled, in behind Maven. Rolling precariously towards the touchline, but well picked up there by Cruikshank. And let's see what they can do here, South Sydney. Here's Maven. Maven goes back to Watson's side of the field. Good run from Maven. John Peart on the sideline. What happened at half-time?
Well, South will be well pleased with the scoreline of 6-6. They did make more errors than Cronulla. But at the 6-6 scoreline, it pleased them. They'd be looking to play the game down in the bog, down the southern end of the field. Dangerous players, Ian Roberts and Phil Blake. Cronulla have got to persist in moving the ball wide. Eddinghausen has seen daylight twice, and that's where they've got to play it.
So here's Dogging going back to his own goal line, you notice, to field that kick. Here's Blake giving chase, and a good tackle from Phil Blake. And that's what South will be trying to do throughout the second half. Play the football down here. Driving it back with the kicks.
They want to kick, or both teams want to kick, both for distance and also the tactical kicks. They almost reaped rewards in that first half.
Penalty against South. Well, that's the way that South Sydney are going to concede ground in the second half. You can see they've given away they've made twice as many errors as Cronulla already. And that was the fourth tackle. They'd done all the hard work. They had Cronulla pinned down. Virtually at that stage, it forced them into the kicking game. And of course now they get a chance not only to kick, it's a free kick over the touchline, and 6 tackles to try and drive play deep down into South territory. Picken on the halfway line. And there's the penalties. 4-all at half-time, and Cronulla with that first penalty of the second half. As we said, very evenly matched in the first half, these two teams. Indicated, of course, by the score, 6-all. Dogging, he's got the pass back to Sorensen. Dane Sorensen. That was almost a sidestep there from Dane.
A shuffle.
Here's Hatch, quickly. This is Speechley. Speechley, 10 metres inside South Sydney's territory. Now, when will they kick? It comes away to Miller. Miller, this is Picken. Picken's offloaded it away to Bishop. It looked forward, and the referee said so.
It was certainly forward, not by much, but nevertheless good work by the Cronulla forwards, moving the ball around.
But they only had one tackle left. It would have been a kick anyway, so I suppose it was worth trying something. And immediately on the first tackle, it's banged downfield by Blake. Now Watson's getting back. Maven's coming through like an express train. Watson's got it, and a good tackle from Maven. Good football.
Watson slowly to his feet, trying to give his fellow players time to get back as they straggle back past the run 22.
There's Coleman slipping over, and this is the real bog part of the ground.
That really was a good thinking, to kick the ball down into the bog, keep them there, and it takes a lot out of you walking back through that mud. It's a long way.
Trying to run it out through that bog would take a lot out of you too. Another player down injured. Here's Staines. It's Goodlett who's down injured, the man who scored the try. And the kick from Speechley. Finds touch. Well, that's a good kick from Speechley. That looked as if, when it left the boot, as if it had come up the side of the boot. But it found its mark. Hit the sixpence virtually, didn't it?
And I think Maven did the right thing, not to risk touching it and knocking it into touch and giving away the feed. He conceded 25 metres, but that's okay. If they get the scrum feed, they're on the attack.
Blake. The ball's gone loose. It's fallen on by Cronulla. And Dane Sorensen. Danny on the spot. Let's call him that. And Ettinghausen, because the other centre, of course, is down injured at the moment. The ball's gone loose, and now Souths have got it. Coleman was decked in a very heavy tackle there.
You couldn't really blame Coleman for dropping the ball. He was under a great deal of pressure as it came to him, but both teams dropping the ball on the first tackle. And in these conditions, you've got to treasure that ball for 6.
So Roberts, 10 metres Cronulla's side of halfway. And Goodlett's actually been taken off the field on the far side as Blake gets it again and immediately bangs it up high in the air. One bounce and across the touchline. 18 metres out from Cronulla's line.
The result was good for Phil Blake, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was aiming to be a little deeper and hit into that mud patch once more. No doubt that South's tactics are to keep them down that end of the field.
And there's Goodlett on the far side. He's actually off the field of play. And this will be interesting. I'd say Alan Wilson's going to move to the centres. That's my guess. As Bishop runs the ball away from the base of the scrum. Now Danny Lee coming on. Now he's a big strong forward. Quickly it comes out to Ettinghausen. Ettinghausen trying to get on the outside of Roberts and can't do so.
Cronulla feel they do have a chance in the backs. They're prepared to move it wide to Ettinghausen.
Coleman banged into the deck on the quarter line. So Wilson, I would think, will go into the backs. He played in 4 positions here against Canberra at 5'8" and in the centres, as well as playing second row and lock forward.
He might pick up more than one Dally M award for positional play.
And the missed tackles again. Souths have made twice as many errors in that area as Cronulla, and Staines is pretty badly hurt here by the reaction of some of the players, and Alan Wilson's immediately called for a stretcher.
There's the driving tackle going in from David Boyle. And more assistance. Staines just hit very hard. Could have damaged a rib as he hit the ground.
Not quite sure what his problem is, but have a look at this for Courage. You can see the pain that he's in by the time that the trainers have got there and the players' reaction. But he didn't let the ball go. He secured possession. And they've taken the stretcher out. Not quite sure. John Peard, I know you were a lot closer to it, but you may not have seen it any better. Did you see anything in it?
I think he just got a heavy knock, but Roberts really hit him. Really left the ground, and he was already caught in a tackle by a player in a lower position. But here's Michael Porter coming on straight away, so a hooker for a hooker.
I think Staines was already grimacing from the initial hit from David Boyle. Roberts certainly finished him off, but Staines was already in trouble.
So Michael Porter coming on.
And Grant Goodlett.
And Grant Goodlett hobbling off. Dan Staines, who had a stint with Halifax in the off-season. And here's Michael Porter, who had a stint with Hull Kingston Rovers, having returned home only last Sunday morning. And Bill Harrigan wisely waiting for the player to be carried off. They wanted to go on with the game straight away. Cronulla win the scrum. Docking blindside. Comes away to Eddinghausen and he can't get through. That was a good tackle. Right round the legs, Graham Lyons. Trying to exploit that blindside off the back of scrums. But the team's back 5 metres. And a lot of people have been talking about the 5'8" standing wide, which means that when the fullback comes into that blindside, the 5'8" can't get there quickly enough to affect the tackle.
Cronulla really are lucky to have such a versatile player as Wilson. They lose a centre, they lose a forward, but they can still plug the gaps.
What a great run there from Gavin Miller, just inside South territory. Last tackle, Bishop. Bishop, a good kicker. Looks for the gap between Maven and Cruikshank. All the way back to the goal line as Maven brings it out. And the little man who put the kick-ins up there to affect the tackle as well.
Speechley has kicked very well in this game, and now here's Cronulla's chance to put the pressure right on South and see if they can come up with the ball.
Well, this is where, of course, South conceded the penalty at the other end of the field, and sometimes it can happen when you know that you're in good field position, that you get a little bit too enthusiastic. Roberts to play it. 18 metres out from South's line. Ellison going to kick. That's come straight off the side of his boot. Watson underneath it, takes it well. Runs it back at Maven, and Maven again, right round his bootlaces. 35 metres out from South's line. Oh, gee, he could have pinged a couple of South players there. As Michael Porter, his first touch of the football back on Australian soil. Docking. This is Danny Lee. Hatch, a dummy half. Now here's Picken. Picken's offloaded it to Porter. Porter, oh, he's lost the ball. Souths have got it, but the referee's going to put a scrum down for a knock on both ways.
Porter trying to pivot around to get the pass away when he realised that the defence was starting to grab hold of him, and it just spilled out the bottom.
Yeah, news from the dressing room that Danny Stones has a twisted ankle, so obviously he's held in a tackle, and Roberts coming over the top didn't do him too much good at all.
Yes, I think there was some concern that it might have been fractured there initially. Maybe there was a little sound there as well, which players can often hear, but you can't hear it, thankfully, in the stands. So South through Lyons. It's 6-all the scoreline. 31 minutes left in the match. That was the half-time score after Goodlett and Chisholm had scored tries in the first half. Lyons down injured for South Sydney. Blake the kick. Watson's back there. Well taken, seen Watson. Watson runs it back now for Cronulla. Good run from Watson. Good strong run.
Lyons is down. They've got a poke in the eye or some mud in the eye.
Docking.
A crowd is screaming for referee Harrigan to get South back 5, and with good reason. They're all creeping half a metre in front of him.
And of course, if you do it too often and he catches you in this position, it could be an easy 2 points. Blindside, it comes away now to Picken. Picken, yes he can, it gets it away to Porter. Good run from Michael Porter, good solid run down to the quarter line. Last tackle against Cronulla. Bishop a dummy half. Away it comes to Miller. Miller, oh, gets the pass away and almost could have been a try, because Blake, had he seen open space, it would have been shut the gate. Cruikshank runs round the back of his player and must be a penalty right in front of the post, 24 metres out. Harrington was standing there and David Cruikshank used him as a shepherd.
It was a good decision, there was no doubt about it. Fennick did well here initially to slip a pass away, and he found his runner that he was after, Cruikshank, but Cruikshank suddenly doubles around and right behind, accidentally I suppose, but no doubt that the tacklers were impeded from getting to him.
So a very important kick coming up. David Cruikshank chewing madly on the gum. It's not a difficult kick for Wilson. He kicked one in the first half from a lot further out from right in front. He's missed some, relatively easy ones, I would have thought, for him. He's missed 3.
There's only 1 from 4 so far, and he is kicking into the breeze.
Penalties going Cronulla's way, 6-4, but 2-0 in the second half. Alan Wilson. There's a lot of method in the way he kicks. He looks as if he's ready to line up, and then he comes back in again and measures his run off. That's what he's doing at the moment. A very important kick, this.
Well, he missed 2 points in the first half and came up with 4.
So Alan Wilson, the chance to put the Sharks back in front. Wilson comes in. The kick is away again, just on the outside of the upright.
1 from 5, not a good record for Wilson, who usually is quite consistent with the boot.
And when it left the boot, it looked as if it was going to find the mark, but look at it, just swing away on the outside of the upright. And maybe Sean Watson might be brought on to kick goals. As Docking runs the ball back. That was a good drop out. And if you don't put the man on the deck, they can really make you pay for it. Porter, dummy half, and that's probably another thing that Cronulla missed in the first half, was a regular dummy half, and that's what Michael Porter is. Sorensen back inside South territory. Now, quickly it comes away, out towards Lee, Danny Lee. Can't get it away to Coleman, who was supporting there. Open side, they swing it now. And Wilson couldn't get his pass away, held on too long in the end. Last tackle as it goes to Miller. Miller puts his kick in, a little grubber. It's a good kick. Crookshank's there. Oh, it's gone straight through his legs, and Eddinghausen almost got there. Gee, it was almost another error from South Sydney. When you see mistakes like that, don't forget it was Eddinghausen who affected the tackle on Adam O'Neill in the first half incident, which saw Cronulla come up with the try. But to realise just how quick Andrew Eddinghausen is.
And the pressure was there from by Miller with the kick. He took his time, he ran right to the line, he put it in, and Cruikshank was always going to have trouble because the chasers had time to get to him.
They tried to put a kick in there, South Sydney, and again they mucked it up under good Cronulla pressure. Ellison has to hurry the kick. It's a wobbly old one, and Watson taking it well. He's had a big second half, as seen Watson. He's been in a pressure situation on a number of occasions, and he's really overcome it every time.
South just aren't getting the distance with their kicks as Watson did in the first half with the Sharks. Beautiful take over the top of his head, facing towards his goal line, so if he knocks it on, well, it'll go backwards.
Would you call it a classic catch? 32 metres out from South's line. Porter, blindside through Danny Lee. There's plenty of oomph in that tackle. Porter. Sorensen knocks it on.
The simplest of mistakes really knocks the momentum of your team around. It's all about holding onto that ball, keeping your eye on it, grabbing hold of it if it's a little bit slippery.
Well, one of the game breakers could well come into their own in this game. And by that I mean players like this man, Coleman, the man on his outside, especially Phil Blake and Graham Lyons, and of course fellas such as Eddinghausen and Docking. Men who can score tries from anywhere. A very tight match here at the Caltex Field. South 6, Cronulla 6, as Coleman puts a kick in. A lot of experience gained with Hull in the off-season. Docking. Experience in these conditions. And Docking. Good run from Docking. Back to the halfway line. Well, that's the way you turn a kick round back in your favour.
Great run from Docking. It's not easy to change direction when the weather's heavy underfoot, but he really did it beautifully.
Eddinghausen beautifully wrapped up. That was a good tackle and a penalty. Now, Bill Harrigan's played the advantage there. He's obviously said all the South players were up inside the 5, and he's allowed Eddinghausen to run the ball wide. He's played the advantage, and so the penalty goes to Cronulla. Johnny Peart, I just get the feeling that Souths are getting a bit frustrated here. They know they've got the win, but somehow it's not working for them.
Yes, they are. They're up against a very enthusiastic Cronulla. The chasers are really putting pressure on the South Sydney kicking game, and Cronulla is more organised now with Michael Porter at dummy half, as you mentioned.
Sorensen taking the ball down the centre, just outside the quarter line. Well, most of the second half's been down this end of the park. Porter in at dummy half, Porter on his own. It's 6-all the score, though. And that's, look at that, that's the story of the second half, and that really says it in a nutshell. Cronulla have made some simple errors too. Paul Bishop, the transgressor that time.
Cronulla letting themselves down with bad handling, but Souths have been missing tackles. And, that's partly because Cronulla have been prepared to move the ball.
Good tackle effected there on Phil Blake. That was Alan Wilson, the tackler. Roberts takes it ahead. This is Ian Roberts. It's a nightmare at Belmore last Monday when we had 3 Lees on the field. 1 for Canterbury and 2 for Cronulla. I thought I was in Dixon Street for a moment.
And it's just starting to rain quite heavily, so the ball is going to get more slippery.
South Sydney just inside Cronulla's territory. It's South 6, Cronulla 6. Blindside, Ellison kicking. They decided to kick to the other wing now, and that's going to find touch. About 16 metres out, says the touch judge, over on that eastern side of the field. Well, maybe they thought it wasn't much use kicking to Watson's wing anymore.
Good tactics to change the direction, but also this time Ellison goes for touch. Up to now, South have been prepared to keep it in the field of play when they chase deep.
Bring it back, I'm called in the bench. Bring it back, Bill.
Clearly here, Bill Harrigan there giving the instructions, saying bring it back, and the penalty goes to Souths. Well, you could hear him for a good 30 seconds, Harrigan, telling the Cronulla forwards to bring it back, and they didn't, so they get penalised.
Well, it's one thing for the referee to say move it back when you've got 6 forwards locked into position. It's hard to move them back a couple of steps, but he demanded it and he didn't get it. He's got that right.
But he demanded it more than once, Warren. He gave them a couple of chances. So South Sydney now right on the attack. Against the run of play this in the second half, but they've got a chance as Coleman away. It goes towards Chisholm, and Chisholm's almost got in for his second. Coleman again, the dummy half. Looking for a runner. It comes away towards Fennick, and Fennick will play it only a couple of metres out. Coleman again. Coleman trying to force his way over. Last, or 2 more tackles. 4th tackle against South Sydney. Fennick a dummy half. It comes away now toward big Ian Roberts. Ian Roberts, he's offloaded it away. It goes to Andrews, and Andrews has scored for South Sydney. 10 points to 6 is the score.
We were just saying that South seemed to be rattled, but they took the advantage there of the scrum penalty to work the 6 tackles. And look at this beautiful bit of football from Ian Roberts. Strong football. He pulls in 2, makes that 3, and stands and delivers to Andrews, who came on the burst. They were never going to stop Andrews because he hit it hard and fast. But Roberts was the one who made the try. Beautiful football and good understanding between the 2.
Michael Andrews, who hails from Nambucca Head, scores his first try of the season. And what an important try. Plenty of time left in the match, but with the rain starting to fall heavily, a converted try here might be just what they need.
Wasn't that scrum penalty vital? Cronulla had the feed. All of a sudden, the penalty goes the other way and South have a chance.
And the rain is really pouring now, coming down very heavily.
Enjoying it down there, John?
Not too bad, Warren. But that was a bit of tough luck for Cronulla there. That's the first time South have had the ball in the Cronulla quarter, and they paid for it dearly. It was 4 attempts to get over the line, but Ian Roberts showed early in the game that he's prepared to pass while held in tackles, and obviously that paid off dividends.
So Ellison to try and make the margin 6 points. The kick's good. It's there. 2 points. South Sydney are leading Cronulla Sutherland by 12 points to 6.
There was very little Cronulla could do to stop this. When South got this close to the line, they used their big men. Roberts pulls in 3. The defence has got to be starting to get thin, and the little break was there, and Andrews saw it.
And there's the rain on the far side of the ground. Well, the golf fans here, I think. A myriad of colours around the ground as everyone puts up their... Oh, look at that for a knock-on from Cruikshank. Well. Cronulla are going to be right on the attack, only 5 metres out.
Well, when you come to the end of this game, the simplest of mistakes are so crucial. Adam O'Neill conceded a try. Now Cruikshank gives possession away that close to his line when his team should have had 6. OK, remember that it is raining and the ball was slippery.
So here goes Cronulla. Bishop trying to force his way over. Hatch is in a dummy half. Here comes Porter. Michael Porter, he got it away. Now here's Docking. Only about 5 metres out from that South Sydney line. Danny Lee from dummy half. Lee, a lot of strength from the young man. He's almost forced his way over. It's 12 points to 6 in favour of South Sydney. Let's see what they can do here. Michael Porter, can he get the ball down? He can't. Forced back into the field of play. Last tackle against Cronulla. What will they do here? It comes away. Out it goes to Bishop. Bishop gets a kick in, but that was good defence from Phil Blake that put him under pressure. What a great performance then from South to hold them out. So often teams relax when they do get a converted try. that Cronulla couldn't hit back.
It really was great defence, but it's amazing, isn't it? These teams train 3 or 4 nights a week. They put in a great deal of preparation. But when it comes down to it, it's a very simple game. You keep them away from your own try line. And David Cruikshank's mistake from the kick-off gave Cronulla the opportunity.
Now Watson again. He's put under a bit of pressure, and again he takes the ball superbly. Maven was up there, and so too was Andrews. Hatch. 5,691 hardy souls braving the conditions here today. Andrews receiving attention, and also one of the Cronulla players. I think it's Sean Watson, isn't it? Andrews is coming off by the looks of things.
Yeah, Watson copped a bad one.
Sean Watson getting to his feet there. Have to wait and see whether he's going to come off, whether he copped ribs or not. Now the little chip and chase put on by Cronulla. And Cruikshank 12 metres out from his own line. Andrews is getting back into the field of play. There's the little chip over the top. Now was Wilson tackled after he put the ball in. I think the tackle probably started before the kick went in. Now Paul Roberts, and Roberts solidly met there. The replacement who's come onto the field is Glenn Rogers, wearing Guernsey 14 for Cronulla. Famous name in a Cronulla jumper.
Big defence.
Fennick on the halfway line. 17 minutes to go. Maven, I think he was quite expecting that. He's taken there, he's going to be pushed across the touchline easily.
Good defence there by David Hatch.
John Peard, what's it like down there now?
Well, conditions are deteriorating somewhat. We're seeing more drop balls, but the first team that can control the possession will come up with the goods. So I think that Cronulla's in very good position at the moment. South Sydney's in a very good position at the moment.
So Darren Brown's come onto the field for South Sydney, wearing Guernsey 24. As Cronulla run the ball inside South Sydney's territory. That's Pickin. Miller a dummy half. Bishop. Now it comes out to Speechley. Speechley got it away to Eddinghausen. Eddinghausen puts the kick in, but it's a shocker. He knew as soon as he kicked it that it was going to go sailing over the touchline on the full.
Eddinghausen trying something that's very difficult to do, to kick with your right foot back away from you towards the right. It's okay if you're a left footer. It's very difficult to change direction like that when you're on the run.
Reserve grade captain Darren Brown on the field for South Sydney for Michael Andrews. Gee, the good scrum, but Coleman's got the ball. He's lost it. Knock on.
Well, even the experienced players can make basic mistakes. Here goes Coleman, trying to dive and burrow through, but the ball's slipping out the back. Easy to say you shouldn't make mistakes, but the ball is slippery.
15 minutes to go. Blake, the first chance he's really had to make a bit of a break in the game. Plays at the Brown after they'd won that scrum against the head. Brown, Blake, Coleman, Fennick. Blake, blindside. Blake tries the little chip and chase himself. The ball's just sitting there in the glue pot. Chipped through by Maven, but too deep. Played a restart with a tap from the centre of the quarter line. But that could have been anywhere when the ball was just sitting there in the glue pot. Steve Maven took the odds to it.
Blake was knocked over after he got the kick away, but I don't think there was anything in it. And as you say, Maven very nearly converted at the try. Bishop just managed to get back, but the kick a little too long. And South, if they get into a similar position with 15 minutes to go, might think about a field goal. 6-point lead.
Well, that's exactly what happened here in the game between South and Cronulla last year, when Phil Blake popped over a field goal, which ultimately was the difference between the two sides. South's winning that first round match by 21 points to 20. And then, of course, the second round match when Sean Watson kicked the penalty goal after the bell. Now there's Guy Pickin receiving some attention. Docking. Here it comes away to Speechley, and beautifully away to Eddinghausen. Now here's Rogers. Rogers can't get away from Maven, though.
Maven's defence has been very sound.
Now Hatch taking it up for Cronulla. He came deep. Speechley takes it ahead. Last tackle against the Sharks. Speechley plays it forward. Speechley puts the kick in, but Coleman's there. Coleman got back there to dive on the ball, which went backwards when he couldn't handle it the first time.
I think Speechley went the wrong way that time. Cronulla had the backs well spread. He decided to have a shot at it himself, but they did have an overlap out wide.
But still, sometimes, Warren, in that situation...
Well, it's easy to say from up here. Speechley's got much closer vision. He can't see the big hole out wide unless somebody tells him it's there.
And when you're not being marked correctly, you've got to make the decision straight away. Now here's a chance again for Cronulla. A mistake. And Lee knocked that backwards, and then the referee said it's a knock on.
Well, we've got to get used to handling errors. The rain's still coming down.
The referee's ruled that South Sydney have knocked it on. See, I thought he pinged the Cronulla fella there for a second, but no, he did ping the Cronulla player. Well, scrum's going South way 11-5. Well, for mine, it wasn't a knock on. Just outside the quarter line. Roberts, Ian Roberts. A strong game. South Sydney leading Cronulla, 12 points to 6. David Boyle, Roberts, Fennick. Ellison wasn't expecting it. And now he got it away to Blake, who's gone without it. But at least he makes up for the mistake and forces them into a scrum.
South's trying to force the passes here. They were really going nowhere and they finally spilled it. I think they'd be better off just taking it one up, maybe one or two passes and just make ground.
Blindside, here's Speechley. Docking's there as well. Docking's in a hole. Docking's over the quarter line. Docking caught from behind, but he's there, yes! Fair try! Jonathan Docking! We talked about the blindside move. When the teams are back 5 metres, watch for the fullback coming on the blind side, and Docking did it brilliantly. South leading 12-10, but look at this.
Superb football by Cronulla just to take full advantage. Just pass inside and straight through the hole and should open up, and then Docking just had too much pace for them. They couldn't get to him from that point.
Blake magnificent coming across. He got to him, and did he lose the ball over the line?
Great pass from Speechley. He drew in two, and that opened up the hole on the inside. Docking flying right through. Blake comes at him. Let's see if he gets the ball down all right. I'd say so.
Jonathan Docking, his second try of the year. A telling one. 5 tries from 19 games last year. And of course, this is his 6th year in first grade here with the Cronulla Sharks.
And now Alan Wilson, who's only kicked 1 from 5, needs these 2 points.
A very important kick, and he's got a great streamer hanging off the top of the right upright, which wouldn't help him. You can see it at the top of the screen there.
It might distract him, but it certainly tells him where the wind's blowing from.
You think he might have got up there and put it up there?
I'd say it'd be very useful.
So Alan Wilson, with the chance to level the scores for the second time in the match, moves in and he's missed it. It didn't come round at all. 1 from 6 for Alan Wilson this afternoon. 10 minutes to go in the match. South Sydney lead 12-10.
And here's the end of the try again. Great cover defence from Blake to come across from the other side. But let's see, did the ball... Yeah, certainly a fair try.
Well, we spoke about it early in the game. Watch for the blindside moves from scrums, especially when they're 15 to 20 metres infield. Mark Ellison restarts play.
The new rule, which gets the teams back 5 metres from the scrum, is a good one. I was a bit concerned that it gave the referee more influence on a game. There's going to be penalties which will change the fortunes of games from players being inside the 5, but it really has opened it up, the attacking options from the scrum, and Cronulla used it beautifully there.
Well, that's a move John Peart, a few coaches have been talking about. I think we saw it exploited to its best there.
Yeah, Speechy did some good work. He pulled 2 men out of the line and gave Docking a clear passage.
Now here's Coleman making a bit of a break. Oh, that was a high tackle.
I don't think it was any intention there.
No, it wasn't intentional. Crowd appealing perhaps that it should have been at least a penalty, but...
Tackler was caught on the wrong foot. Well, Phil Blake it was trying to make the tackle. He's caught on the wrong foot. It was a little high, but it wasn't dangerous or vicious.
Oh, no, certainly no intent in it either. It was
good decision by the referee not to make anything more of it.
So Coleman now 30 metres away from the Cronulla line. South's leading by 12 points to 10. Fennick got away from the first tackler there, Pickin. He's got through a power of work again today. Brown away to Roberts, who's also had a mighty game. He pops the pass up for Brown, who does well. Brown still going, tried to get the pass away.
Well, Brown showing his inexperience. I suppose if the pass had found its man, South were in for a try, but there was very little chance that this pass was going to get there because Eddinghausen had it covered beautifully and knocks the pass down. It was better to hang on to it and play for another tackle.
So Cronulla need to get the ball down the other end of the park. Sorensen just outside the quarter line. Patch. Out it comes to Speechley. Quickly, Miller. Back it comes to Speechley. Porter from dummy half. Gets it away. A little kick back infield. Is there any chasers there? Only Michael Porter. Cruikshank gets it. Cruikshank gets away from Porter. Gets away from Pickin, or does he? No. Good tackle from Guy Pickin. Harrington takes it up for South Sydney. Midway half and quarter line. This is Brown. A lot of tired men out there. Just the 2 points in it. South Sydney leading Cronulla by 12 points to 10. 7 minutes left in the match. That kick charge down, everyone's onside. Eddinghausen coming through quickly but can't get there.
6 more tackles, says the referee. He said that the defender jumping in the air played at the ball.
Chisholm it was who got there just in front of Eddinghausen, but that could have been anything. The kick charge down. This could have easily gone anywhere. And had Eddinghausen got there first, it could have been quite easily a Cronulla try. Fennick the flag. Boyle. 6 minutes left in the match. South Sydney leading 12-10. Ian Roberts charged at the head. Well tackled by Sorensen. Just inside Cronulla's territory. Last tackle against South Sydney. Blake gets it. Blake sends it out wide. Paul Roberts has gone without it. This will be a handover.
Oh, it's a penalty.
Penalty.
The referee said he was offside after that ball travelled forward.
Saying that Harrington was offside.
The pass out, travelling forward there from Roberts, and Harrington a little unlucky there. He went back, thought he was onside, but the referee saw it differently.
So the kick out now from Wilson. On comes another replacement now for the Cronulla side. Dane Sorensen, their top tackler, coming off. 28 tackles.
It's been a tough slog out in the middle for the forwards today.
David Burns it is who's come on. A fine attacking player, and that's what Cronulla need. They need to get down the other end or 35 metres or so closer and put a 4-pointer on the board. Here's Burns. 12 metres out from the quarter line. Bishop. Speechley. Eddinghausen back in amongst the forwards. Last tackle against Cronulla. Burns looks at Bishop and said it comes to Miller. Miller, the pass knocked down by a South Sydney player, and the referee says play on.
There was a strong tackle on Miller that jolted the ball as well. Here's Miller trying to get a runner off him on the outside. The tackle comes in. Don't know whether it came off a South Sydney hand or not.
Give the benefit of the doubt to the referee.
He was a lot closer. Miller hasn't been cited that much in the second half. Michael Porter's come on and done some good work, but Gavin Miller not as dominant in this half.
And the clock stopped with 5 minutes to go. I'll make it about 3.5 minutes left in the game. South Sydney hanging on.
I think Cronulla have missed Dan Stain since he went off. He was a very powerful influence early in that first half.
The kick from Blake.
Good tactics from South. Play it down the other end.
Coleman's back there first. He's got Docking in support. Docking decides to run it back the other way. Docking Good tackle in the end. Stopped him down just outside that quarter line. It was Harrington. Here's Miller. Miller running straight across field. There's heavy conditions. Made these players very tired. 3 minutes left in the game. Rogers 10 metres inside Cronulla's territory. Quarter. Burns the dummy half. Bishop now dogging quickly. They've got room out wider. They spin it quickly here. Eddinghausen in a hole. Over the halfway goes Eddinghausen. The pass comes away to Coleman. Coleman back on the inside. It comes to dogging. Quickly it comes away. And what magnificent defence from Blake in the end. As Wilson must be a penalty. It must go to Cronulla.
5 minutes in the sin bin.
And he's got the rest of the game in the sin bin to boot. But what brilliant play. Cruikshank it is who's going to the sin bin. What magnificent play. Eddinghausen.
Look at this pass from Eddinghausen. Back over his head. Unbelievable pass. Fantastic, and they keep it coming. But Coleman, the backing up was there. Docking, all of them there. But look at this last tackle, which just saved the situation by Phil Blake.
Blake it was on Alan Wilson.
In fact, it should have been Phil Blake who went into the sin bin for 5 there. He was the one who doubled up in the tackle, not Cruikshank.
So Alan Wilson, who's kicked only 1 from 6 all afternoon, the chance to level it up at 12 all. Not an easy kick. He struck the ball reasonably well all afternoon.
Well, even now, George Piggins is probably wondering whether or not Cruikshank did the right thing or not there, or I should say Blake, because Cronulla was certainly arriving in numbers, and now Wilson has a difficult attempted goal here to try and level this scores.
Only about 60 seconds left in the match. Alan Wilson hasn't got a good record. Is it going to be deja vu? Sean Watson kicked the goal last year to give the Sharks victory on the bell. There's the kick from Wilson, and it's gone straight across the face, and Rogers almost plucked it out of the air. And it's another penalty. It's another penalty against South Sydney.
Well, I think the referee has said that the South Sydney player who ended up with the ball was offside. Either that or he said they were never back 10 metres from the kick.
But he's given the penalty. The penalty has gone to Cronulla.
Well, here's the kick. If a South Sydney hand didn't touch the ball, the referee's right. Souths were offside.
Wilson's going to have another shot at goal. But the incredible thing about that was that Glenn Rogers almost plucked the ball out of the air. And had he done so, he would have won the game.
Well, the angle of the kick always made another try a possibility. In the first half, Cronulla came up with a try when they went for the penalty goal and O'Neill spilt the ball. What an evenly matched game it's been. Wilson's kicking has let Souths off. O'Neill conceded a try to give Cronulla the chance.
So this is the chance for Alan Wilson to tie it up. There's the kick. He's hit the uprights. The ball comes down to Wilson. He's lost it. It's knocked on. The referee says a knock on. The scrum will go down. The siren hasn't gone yet.
It's a Cronulla scrum feed.
I'm waiting for the siren to go at any moment. What an incredible finish. The referee wants the scrum to go down. The referee's
checking. He's checking.
And he said no, it's all over. South Sydney have miraculously got away with this game. Alan Wilson's kicked 1 from 7 all afternoon. And South Sydney have defeated Cronulla by 12 points to 10.
An unbelievable game of football.
So, on Saturday's Super League, the Rabbitohs of South Sydney score their second win of the year and increase their premiership tally to 4 points. South Sydney, the club that has won more premierships than any other in the history of the competition.
So there we are. An incredible performance there from South Sydney, but gee, Alan Wilson kicking only 1 goal from 7 attempts all afternoon. They had plenty of chances, Cronulla, to take the points, and how close it was when he had that second last kick at goal. And we saw Glenn Rogers almost get a try. And here's the last kick. It hits the upright. It bounces back. And watch Alan Wilson. He almost gets it back himself, even though he was tackled probably without the ball. It could have even been another penalty. When you look at the replay, he looked as though he was tackled before he had the ball anyway. But what an incredible situation here. The Cronulla had plenty of chances to win this game, but couldn't put them away in the second half. South Sydney getting away with the 2 Winfield Cup points by 12 points to 10. They scored 2 tries apiece, but really the goal kicking in the end made all the difference. Wilson, 1 from 8 it was in the end. That was his 8th kick at goal, the last one. So he missed 7 kicks at goal here this afternoon, Alan Wilson, and perhaps, well, there might have been a cause for David Hatch to change kickers late and give Sean Watson a kick. Sean Watson obviously would have had some confidence after destroying South Sydney in a game here last year. It's a good performance there by South Sydney, and let's go down the bottom now to the sidelines, or perhaps even in the tunnel. I'm not sure where John Peard is, but I think he's got hold of Phil Blake.
Well, sensational game, Phil. I guess winning's the only thing that counts, but in the long run.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the 2 points is what's count, and we're very pleased to come down in these conditions and take the 2 points, John.
Yeah, well, that's 2 on the road for South.
Well, 2 last week on the road again, so that's 4 for us. We've really hit our straps after the disappointing start against Eastern Suburbs, and we'll be a very happy side this afternoon, and we're even happier at training during the week knowing that we've won.
I guess a key part of the game was the finish. There was several incidents there that really had a bearing on it, but I thought your ankle tap of Andrew Eddinghausen and then to get to your feet and complete a tackle to stop a try was probably a very big turning point for South.
Well, yeah, it was just the commitment that not only myself but the whole side showed today. It was a very committed side, and you know, whether it was myself or someone else that shows that commitment, you know, it's all going to look good for South.
And should David Cruikshank have gone to the sin bin?
Well, you look at it, probably 9 times out of 10 they do send the player to the sin bin, but whether it was his fault or my fault, I'm not too sure.
Good, thanks, Phil.
Okay.
So there we are, John Peard speaking there with Phil Blake, and pandemonium everywhere at the end of the game. Not only was there controversy about that last penalty when Alan Wilson hit the uprights with the attempt, there was confusion whether it should have been a penalty or not, and then there was even more confusion when referee Bill Harrigan didn't even know whether the siren had gone or not. But in the end, well, when your goal kicker kicks 1 from 8, you've got to realise that when you go down by 2 points that you had enough chances to win the game. And as I said, perhaps David Hatch could have given the last couple of kicks to Sean Watson, knowing full well that Watson had put Souths away in the match last year, and often it's goal-kicking confidence that can determine the outcome of a kick. But of course today, very greasy conditions and not good for goal-kicking. Let's go back and have a look at one of the tries here this afternoon. The third try scored, the one scored by South Sydney in the first 20 minutes of the second half. Well, we're going back to have a look at the try. Somehow, and here it is. This is the try scored by, as Ian Roberts took the ball up, and it was scored by lock forward Michael Andrews. Now you'll see Andrews come onto the burst and get the ball down on the line, and in the end that was the try that put South Sydney in front. It was converted by Mark Ellison, and in the end a telling conversion. South Sydney skipping away to lead by 12 points to 6, and in the end that was a good enough lead to take the 2 Winfield Cup points here this afternoon. Well, a good performance from South Sydney. They've now won back-to-back matches, and more importantly, as Phil Blake said, both of those victories have been away from home, and that's always good news for a coach and for a team, which means, of course, that when they go home next, and South Sydney's next couple of games will give them some more confidence, perhaps, to go on and make themselves quite prominent in the battle for the final 5. Let's go and have a look at those remaining games tomorrow in round 3 up at Lang Park. Brisbane at home to Balmain, a depleted Balmain, but I always say, watch out for the wounded tiger. East's at home at the Sydney Football Stadium to play Canberra. Parramatta are up against Penrith. That's ABC Radio 2BL's match tomorrow. 4QR Brisbane doing the Brisbane game. And, of course, we'll have descriptions into Canberra and also Newcastle, who are at home to Manly. What a game that'll be tomorrow. North's at home to Western Suburbs. Illawarra are up against Canterbury down at the Wollongong Showground, and St George back home, of course, at the Cogra Jubilee Oval, and they'll be hosting the Gold Coast. Warren Boland, who's going to win?
Well, David, I think Brisbane might just get the money against Balmain. Too much in the backs there, though. The forward should be ferocious. East to beat Canberra. Canberra still without Gary Belcher and 4 halfbacks in the back line. Penrith, Manly did just get over the top of Newcastle, not by much. North to beat West, Canterbury and St George.
So Warren Boland with his prognostications of what might happen tomorrow afternoon. Don't forget to join us again next week on ABC Television when Cronulla play Easts.
Cronulla afternoon. A senior New South Wales detective and 2 other men have appeared in court on drugs charges following yesterday's raid on the King's Cross police station. 41-year-old Detective Sergeant Larry Churchill, a policeman with 20 years' experience, is accused of being the principal in a drug distribution network. Sergeant Churchill and the 2 civilian men are charged with conspiring to supply